This is the story of my process through RP610 evaluation of research and the shift that took place from beginning to end. My initial intention was to gather information that would strengthen the content of a new class I was teaching called Exploring Social Justice Through Art. I hoped that through this research I might be able to attain funding that would allow me to invest in partnerships with local artists. I wanted to implement a school improvement plan that would give students the opportunity to design and create culturally reflective murals on our school walls. My journey began with a simple but very specific question. Does art on the walls of a school building impact the culture and climate of a school and therefore student outcomes? The question I started with led me to a dead end. In retrospect, I can see that I was too narrow in my search. I was trying to get the research to answer my question rather than using key terms to help me navigate the research that was available. I was unable to find published peer-review articles that met my initial inquiry. I found that the correlation between visible art and school culture had not been verified, so my question evolved as I learned. Around this time, we had a Zoom session with our school librarian who imparted a wealth of information on us. As I began to apply my new learning, I played around with key terms and broadened my scope of the investigation. From my initial question, I moved towards the key terms art and school climate. This led me to look at how art impacts achievement. From there, I played around with the terms the condition of buildings and student perceptions of school culture, which took me to art, school facilities, and student achievement. And finally, I hit the jackpot with school building quality and student outcomes. I suddenly found myself with a variety of articles that radiated out in different directions. I quickly went from not enough to too much and felt the process beginning to unravel. I paused and took a deep breath. I took a step back and asked myself, what is the common thread? What is at the heart of this question? What is driving my work? This is when I saw that culture and climate in a school building are the bedrock of the work I am embarking on, and the research I had at my fingertips could potentially support a direction that my school was in desperate need of. An interesting aspect of the research I was finding was that it lacked student voice. This input had not been sought, considered, or weighed in any studies previous to the article I eventually settled on. In fact, the student involvement was a significant factor in what eventually drew me toward my focus. My path led me to a question that dug deep into the heart of this work, and I began looking at the interplay between student and staff perceptions, quality of school facilities, student outcomes, and academic achievement. Despite my feeling that I had finally arrived, I was soon to learn that my journey was still in its infancy and I had much learning ahead. I decided on 3 articles: a qualitative method, or so I thought, a quantitative design, and a mixed method study. In the process of evaluating the criteria of a qualitative research design, I found that a number of negative emotions were coming up for me. I did not feel qualified to critique published research. This caused discomfort and uncertainty, at times leaving me to feel like a fraud. I felt a sense of isolation as I moved through each step, wishing I had someone along for the ride, discussing with me each criteria and new term. I felt frustrated with myself and struggled with my lack of experience. I took endless notes, studied the textbook, watched and rewatched every video and PowerPoint. Slowly but surely, I started to see patterns within the research and process of evaluation. The cycle of information, knowledge, and data began to take shape as I developed my practice and honed my evaluative skills. I was not surprised to discover that there is a strong link between how students and teachers perceive their physical environment, the impact that has on school culture, and that relationships to student performance. A new pattern emerged and helped me better frame my understanding of this new information. While disseminating between the various research designs and evaluating multiple criteria within each aspect of the design method, I could see that what I was learning in this course was giving me a new lens to view research. I have learned and gained comfort in being critical of each part of the research method. I better understand the unique criteria for determining the validity and reliability of new information. Research is a valuable tool for decision-making, and when properly vetted, can be used to inform and improve systems and structures. The depth of understanding that I have acquired has helped me articulate questions and opinions about the data that drives decision-making in my school building. At a recent staff meeting, we were asked to look at data that showed disproportionate referrals for students of color alongside demographic and academic records. The question our principal posed to us was, based on our data, do we think students of color are bad? Besides the fact that this question felt judgmental and shaming, it also lacked a frame of reference or source. I pointed out that the data we were examining was not driven by a clear and unambiguous question. There was not a broader vision that this data was attached to. In fact, I pointed out that we didn't have a vision for our school, and therefore this data is unable to tell us what we are doing to support or neglect our vision. My understanding of research gave me the confidence to stand up for our staff and make clear that it was unproductive and unfair to put this data in front of us without having a plan to guide how we use it and what changes we might be willing to take to improve it. Yes, I agree that we target students of color and are biased in our reactivity to perceived disrespect and defiance. Yes, I agree that it is a problem that the only 2 expulsions this year are for Black boys, but I strongly disagree with using data as a weapon. What I shared only begins to address the layers of harm, misinformation, and lack of competence we are operating in as a staff. I began this journey hoping to put more art on the walls, but in the end, understanding the nuances of research design helped me address not the climate of our student body in the hallways, but the broken and fragmented culture of our staff and the damaging punitive system that has its foot on our backs. I could not have anticipated where I would end my journey, and in fact I see that my journey has no end. But it is an ongoing process that has brought a sense of empowerment from discomfort and confidence from uncertainty. Thank you for being a part of my presentation. But one last thing. Did you hear about the methodologist who had twins? She was delighted and called her minister immediately. The minister was also delighted and said she could bring them both in to get baptized. No, she replied, baptize one, we'll keep the other as a control.